Good morning and welcome to Painting Our Monsters. Today I'm making a special painting for a friend of mine who was talking to me about Ibis and how they've become a huge problem with the trash dumps in Australia. And I was thinking, there's a couple of trash dumps down in South Texas. I've been to some of these dumps and looked at birds down there, and what if one of them Ibis came over here? And this is kind of how I imagined what it would look like if one of them got over here. So those mountains in the back, I'm imagining they're made of a bunch of plastic, needs to be recycled and whatnot. But with this Ibis, first thing we're doing is just laying in, kind of blocking out where its body's going to be. You can see first thing I'm doing is the neck on those things. This thing's got 3 necks, so I'm putting those in and then just kind of thicken them up so they touch the body where it needs to go. And then we're just going to use that as a template to kind of layer in more and more color and depth as we go. So we start off with a nice light blue. Now we're coming in with a little bit darker, just to kind of give it a little bit of shape and 3D where we go. I find with these monsters, if you're just getting started, it's pretty useful to work in a limited palette. So some birds can come in, 100 different colors, but if you just choose 1 or 2 colors, then you can really focus on this gradient effect where we have lights and darks kind of playing with each other. So for me, I'm just using a blue acrylic paint mixed with white, and those 2 colors together are giving me all the gradient I need. Now for the legs, I'm using a different color, of course, and we're doing just a yellow, and we're going to come in and try to give a couple textures on these to give them that effect of maybe there's some mud on these legs, but for now we're just kind of trying to pick out where they come in. If this guy's got 3 heads, I reckon he's going to need 3 legs, so we're going to try to make that happen. Eventually we're going to have to make those things sit in the water, but for now we're just trying to put them in an interesting spot. Take some risks here. Maybe it's not so fun to draw a foot, but that's okay. Take a risk. See how does it turn out? Does that claw look too big? These are kaiju. That don't really matter, right? Just try it out and see what works for you. Okay? And start with, there's 2 different ways to do these things. You can start with the easy part or start with the hard part. Advantage of starting with the hard part is that once it's done, and you just don't touch it again, right? So people that do that often start with the face, or the eye especially is important. But if you want to work your way up to that, then just start with kind of the basics. Start putting in these shapes, and then once you're feeling confident, put in the head. Here we go. I definitely wanted these guys' faces to be pink, so I have a sketch that I'm working from, but really not sure what I'm able to accomplish with paint. So we're going to just take it step by step. So the first thing I'm doing is just putting in a basic layer of, this is this bird's, skull with a thin layer of pink over the top of it. And we're going to see how much form we can get out of that, I know I want 3 heads, and I know I want them all to have that same down curved bill. That's important. So I'm doing that. Just repeating to see what kind of an effect we can get by just simple repetition. We can make a few variations on the pattern. So for example, this guy's head down here is open, or his mouth down here is open, I should say, but really just try to keep it simple, and your idea should be able to shine through with as simple a technique as you can. I think that's a fun way to work. And then as your technique and skill improves, you can take bigger risks and do more things. I like the shape of these heads, but they need a little bit of 3D, so I'm putting in a little bit of dark purple down below to give them just that little bit of a pop, a little bit of a 3D effect. Now, some birds have a lot of trouble eating garbage, and in fact, it's killing a lot of our birds. Gulls will eat just about anything, so will ibis. These are creatures that are, they're looking for crustaceans under the sand. The ones we have in Central Texas are freshwater, so they're looking for ponds and rivers, and they're just probing down below and trying to eat whatever they can. So they they take all those bits and they put it inside of they have a thing called a choke, and then it drops stuff down into a gizzard, which grinds it up, so they just swallow their food whole. So our birds are in trouble because of all the plastic out there. But this guy, I'm gonna call him he's the ibis, so maybe ibok. And he's, he doesn't have those problems. This guy's able to eat whole pieces of metal, whole pieces of plastic. I imagine those things just get basically vaporized from the muscles in his gullet and just crushed down to nothing. And then maybe he uses those bits of metal and bits of plastic and synthesizes them into a bone structure that would allow his body to get as big as it is. Also, these feathers, I imagine, are going to be a little bit tougher than the feathers we're used to, and have that regenerative capability that I mean, we see in plastic, is that plastic can just outlast and survive so much, as we see it out there in the environment. When you're walking around, plastic bags, it seems like they're just about everywhere. The tragedy is, of course, that they break down, but that's not a tragedy here to Ibok. Ibok uses those things and uses this limitless resource to build up these feathers, give him some protection. Now, I'm not sure what would happen if he got hit with, some like a couple of missiles or some fire. These things would probably light right up. But fortunately, he's out here kind of doing his own thing. And considering he's a beast with 3 heads, we're not going to be able to take out all 3 of them all at once. One of these heads we can kind of give different expressions to kind of give us a sense of what's this guy thinking. He's got 3 brains. So do these 3 heads work together? Do they work different? And that's, something that's going to make your kaiju look, have their own personality, is think, do these guys, if he's got 2 heads, are they buddies? Are they enemies? Are they see themselves as brothers? Are they fighting over the same body? So that's kind of the fun stuff to work on. But look, so I got as far as I could on those faces, and I was like, you know what? Let's take a step back, move on to the feathers. Just because sometimes you got to give your brain a little break, and if you can, I'm a victim of just working things to death. And if you just keep working on the same spot and working on the same spot, it don't work. Painting's about doing what you can and being as effective as you can with as little paint, And I say that globbing on huge thick bits here, but you just got to kind of take it easy. So now I have the structure I want, and I'm trying to add some feathers here, and I'm thinking about their faces, about different ways to make these guys look. In my sketches, I have them with eyes, but I'm wondering now, can this be an effective painting if they don't have eyes? Can they just have these feathered ridges that are, that are kind of hiding their faces? What could that look like? Maybe they're like owls. They got real good sense of sound, so maybe these feathers up above their face can catch all that, It's kind of working for me, but maybe it's not working for you, But all that really matters is that when you're making your art, that you like it and it's doing the effect that you want it to do. So feel free to take risks and try different things. In the worst case scenario, you just cover it up later when you're done. Right now, I'm just layering in different feathers, just these repeated brush strokes to get feathers. I'm trying to get a little bit of depth on this guy's neck by putting the light blue over the dark blue. You'll notice I started light, then came in dark, then came in light again, and that's all fun to just kind of keep in and putting in these different layers. The trick is if you can preserve something of the bottom layer, then you're going to get this depth and you're going to get this 3-dimensionality. And he's looking okay. So we're going to go ahead and put him into the environment. So we can see the light is coming in from behind these mountains of trash. And so a little bit of his reflection is in that still water of the pond, right? We can see the mountains coming in there with that red. But now we're just adding in a kind of a bit of a darker shape to kind of match where he's fitting. And that's real important when you're working with water, that you need some sort of indication that he's a part of this painting. Now I'm just coming in and dropping in little bits of feathers all over, just little blips and blobs, and then trying to add some more detail to the legs. Now I slowed down the video here because I wanted y'all to see this technique here. So this is just a little bit of green paint on the corner of a big old brush, and I'm just shoving it into the canvas. I have a little bit of darker in the background, you can see, and but just this is a fun technique with a giant brush. You can really get great effects if you commit to a giant brush and just kind of use the bristles as branches and leaves and just really shove it on there. The trick is not to move the canvas it's not to move the brush too much, but to just use it to push and to push and bend. You saw I gripped a hold of the canvas because it was just moving so much. I'm really happy with how that turned out. But you can see I went and added in some rose bushes later and a little bit of garbage in the front there. And now the last thing we're going to do is just try to do a little bit more detail to get these bills to really stick out. That one in the back there especially, I'm losing that top beak. I'm losing it to the pink, but if we put in a little bit of white, then it's catching the light, and all of a sudden it's just wonderful. So this is line, this is a touch-up, this is a technique, part of painting I never want to do is go back and fix it, but it's really great if when you're done and maybe you let it dry, you come back and say, okay, what can I add in here? Maybe a little bit of light, maybe a little bit of dark. And you can use that to really accentuate your painting, because these lines are what people are going to see. So when you go in and you put in these last little details, kind of brings it all together, kind of makes it all pop and snap. And I think those are more effective because you can see the curve of those bills, and that curve is very important. Same with this neck here, just going in and putting in a couple of big old feathers so we can kind of see, okay, he's covered in a little coat of them. One by one, just kind of coming up. Each brush stroke's a feather. Simple as that. And now I'm looking at this painting and I'm thinking that those guys really need some eyes to make them pop. So I went ahead and added those in. And this is it. This is our final painting. So we can see Ibok here in his pond by these mountains of garbage, master of his domain. I really like how this painting turned out, and I hope you try something like it too. Remember to take some risks, and especially remember that our world is what we make it. Thanks for joining me today, y'all.